Hello and welcome to another episode of Cultivation Elevated, sponsored by Pipp Horticulture. I'm here today with Drew Nowak, CEO and founder of Freedom Green in Michigan. Thanks for taking some time today to show me your facility. Yeah, let's get into it a bit.
Yeah, thanks for coming up. Thanks for making the trip.
You know, for our listeners out there, can you kind of describe the facility that we're in, you know, location, size, and kind of what it was before it was this?
Yeah, we're in Kalkaska, Michigan, so we're about an hour and a half south of the bridge here, just east of Traverse City, Michigan. This property was a field of trees before we got here. We were fortunate enough to find it about 2.5, 3 years ago. You know, it was a vision that we made into reality. We're a 21,000 square foot cultivation facility. We are just cultivators, adult use, and some medical product as well.
Tell me a little bit about yourself growing up, or your background, and kind of how all this came together.
Yeah, so I grew up in De Pere, Wisconsin, which is just a burb of Green Bay, so big Packer fan here. Grew up in a hardworking blue-collar family. Dad was a part of and owns a steel manufacturing business. Moved over to Michigan when playing college football at Western Michigan University, and then was fortunate enough to sign an undrafted free agent contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars in the NFL. Moved on to the Seahawks a couple years later, and then a short stint with the Chiefs, and injuries plagued furthering my career. Finished my degree at Western Michigan in engineering management, and then started working in steel actually to start in Kalamazoo. Stayed local to the college. After that, you know, I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to find something like football, like I would wake up every day and compete and have that and feel that competitive spirit. And I said, why not choose cannabis? And we were talking earlier, and I said, I never grew a plant before we started this opportunity, and you know, now I grow thousands on a daily basis. So there has been a ton of learning throughout this process, but I'm truly blessed to be a part of this industry.
Awesome. Yeah, we also talked about, like, you know, the growing part. It's a big part of it, but it's definitely not all of it. And you can grow a great plant, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee success. So you had a lot of decisions to make when you first got into the design process. How important for you was it to really take in consideration for this main aisle or this main corridor?
Yeah, process flow is really important for us. We just didn't want to be restricted for any reason, whether it was pallets of dirt, soil, whatever, individuals, movement, transplanting, anything like that. So it was really valuable for us to make sure that this room was wide and
yeah, what's the width on this corridor?
I think it's about 10, 12 feet,
12 feet
wide. So, and the units obviously in the hallway make that, make us need to be a little bit wider, plus with our irrigation system out here as well. So we wanted to make sure 4 feet, minimum 4 feet at all times.
What are some of the areas that you focused on specifically? Let's maybe talk about the design and some of the engineering components and some of the decision making that you made in terms of mechanical, electrical, and kind of plumbing decisions. Everything
was really, obviously, plant oriented for equipment sizing and stuff like that, but for us it was really process oriented. Least amount of moving parts. We have a long hallway, a wide hallway, able to move plants and product and supplies up and down very easily. Maintenance on the inside, very simple. So everything for us has really been least amount of moving and helping our people spend their time working more on plants than on moving plants and moving themselves.
And a lot of that process orientation, did that come from football or steel or a combination of both?
I would say more logic. We didn't have a ton of experience, or I had not seen a lot of grows. I maybe saw 2 or 3 grows before even jumping into this. But really it was just the overall full spectrum view and thought of how would we operate, how would we move personally in this facility if we were doing it, trying to make it as easy as possible for our employees.
What were some of the biggest challenges kind of getting started from a design standpoint? And I know there's a lot of opinions out there and a lot of people claiming that they're experts in certain areas and things like that.
Yeah, I think we really were unsure and trusted a lot of the engineers and design teams early on. We were very fortunate. The mechanical contractors that we worked with had some cannabis experience, so we were very lucky there. The electricians we had some experience building facilities as well. So the contractors that we worked with really helped us and guided us throughout the process, and they did a very good job.
Awesome. And have you ever done anything from a startup standpoint in construction like this before, or
No, this was my first. Yeah, this was my first opportunity. I had a lot of mentorship from my father, who GCs a lot of his builds at his company, but for the most part, this was my thrown to the wolves opportunity.
Well, that's sink or swim, right?
Yeah.
What about the name? The name to me, Freedom right now is such a hot topic, but Freedom Green, what can you tell me about kind of how that came to be?
Yeah, so we came up with the name with the veterans in mind. Michigan has over 600,000 veterans, and we wanted to have that Midwest Americana blue collar type feel. We give back to veteran programs, provide meals during the holidays, anything we can to be a part of the veteran community. Northern Michigan, you walk into any small municipality, any village, town, you're seeing active duty military, fallen vets. You see the history of that town, and it's America. And so, we really wanted to be proud Americans as well in the name. But also, the green aspect is, our motto is sustainably made, simply clean. We try to make everything as efficient and wasteless as possible. We don't want, minimal waste. We reclaim water here. We reuse about 1,000 gallons of water per day.
And you're reclaiming mainly through condensate recovery?
Yeah,
through
condensate.
The HVAC system?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So we recover that, re-RO it, and then reintroduce to the plants. So, everything we do is energy conscious, waste conscious, environmental conscious.
Did that drive a lot of the decision making with your equipment selection? We've got LED, you've got mobile racking and multi-tiered situations. Tell me a little bit about, I guess, how you selected your lighting, how you met Pipp, and some of those kinds of stories.
Yeah, so a lot of it was recommendation based. Our original director of cultivation, he recommended grow array, and we saw plants under those lights, and we were very impressed. And we really like the durability and the longevity of those lights. We have not had a light fail yet, and we've had them operating for 2 years. So we were, really thankful for those guys. With Pipp, that was kind of a new venture for us. A lot of people have that single tier HPS experience, and even our original director of cultivation had that HPS experience. But we wanted to be kind of new age. We wanted to be different, and we wanted to maximize our space in our footprint. And so we thought Pipp was recommended to us. We thought that would be a great, addition for us to maximize our canopy, in our grow rooms.
And Pipp is very aligned with that Midwest Americana. I mean, they're down in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a couple hours south of you, so that doesn't hurt at all either. Was there any hesitation about multi-tier from anyone on the team? Did you have to go see it in action somewhere to see it and believe it and touch it and feel it, or were you like, no, this is the path we're going on?
I think there was a ton of hesitation with it. It was a push by us a lot once we found out about it. My father and I, and so there was a lot of we're unsure. How are we going to work on that second level? Is it going to be safe? How will the plants grow up there? Will they get the same amount of attention? But we've worked through our processes. We've really dialed in how we maximize all of our efficiencies with that as well, and it's been great working with those racks.
And you made a couple of strategic decisions too, in terms of what we refer to as the elevations that you've set to. So the first tier elevation is a taller elevation, and when I say elevation, I'm talking usually distance of tray between top of light or something like that. And then on the second tier, it's actually a little bit shorter. Can you kind of elaborate on some of why that is?
Yeah, so a lot of it's the different cultivars. You have shorter, squattier plants and taller, lankier, farther spaced plants. So we really wanted to be able to kind of grow based on the genetics that we received and the demand for those genetics. So if there's a demand for a more indica-based, lower, squattier plant, then we wanted to have the ability to do that. We also wanted to have the ability to grow those longer, lanky ones. And we do also have lighting controls that help us with that as well. But we definitely wanted to have that adjustment ability with our cultivars.
And so when you got started, accessibility on the second tier, there were the catwalk systems and the platforms weren't out then. So you were using what, ladders, lifts?
Yeah, we had scaffolding originally, and I believe we were one of the original or one of the first groups to test out the platforms with Pipp.
Oh, cool.
And as soon as we tried it, we wanted them. So whenever they were ready, we purchased them.
Nice. Yeah. And how has that changed your workflow and your efficiencies?
Well, people feel safer operating on the second level, and it's just cleaner and safer for us. So really, it's been a huge benefit to our operation.
Awesome. One thing we talked about earlier is leadership style and culture, and how critically important that is in any business, but specifically in the cannabis space. Can you highlight, how you view your leadership style and kind of, some of the things that you do to, have such a tight-knit culture that I got to experience here today? Yeah,
definitely. So we're a team here, and we like to run ourselves like a team, and I guess I would call myself the coach maybe. But What I feel is very valuable is how we empower our employees, how we give them responsibility, we give them the ability to work. We're not breathing down their backs. And by doing that, we've created kind of comfortability in the workplace and confidence in their abilities and what they do. So we trust them tremendously to do the right thing. We do have guidance, we have leads, we have a director of cultivation, we have all that, but really our people are very well trained, and they just go do their thing.
What do you think separates you from the herd here in Michigan a bit with other cultivators and things like that?
Yeah, I know a lot of people say it, but I truly believe we are craft at scale. We're not producing thousands of pounds on a monthly basis, but we are able to produce 400 to 500 pounds per month, and we're able to control every aspect of how the plant grows, how we dry cure it, and how it leaves. And I believe we're doing it very well. So for us, it's just maintaining that quality, increasing that quality, and getting people to understand, the type of quality that we produce.
And some of the decisions that I saw that you made speak loudly to that. It's not every day that I see that a product is being hand trimmed, as an example, especially at scale. Can you elaborate a little bit on kind of why you're choosing to put more labor into something?
Definitely. We have a lot of caregivers that work for us, that were caregivers in the old Michigan system, and for them, and from what I've learned, you want to keep the integrity of the bud. We want to see those orange hairs, we want to see the trichomes, we want to see what this flower looked like, pre-drying. And I believe, and we believe, that it matters to the consumers.
So you've got 2 drying rooms.
Yep.
You were saying this one's designed for full plant hanging.
Yeah, full plant hang. So we'll be in here, plants will be in here about 10 days. And then, like Dave here, we'll be bucking the plants. We cut them down, and we start bucking them in the bins. And as soon as they're bucked in the bins, we'll start trimming.
How do you like the new drying setup?
Oh, we love it. I mean, we have some nice big plants coming in here, wet plants, and it fills me. There's 500 hooks in here.
Yeah,
so that's a lot of, we fill a whole room. It's really nice.
Do you ever have to adjust the set points for density depending on cultivar, or do you pretty much keep it pretty fixed to where it is?
Yeah, we'll move them. Some of them are, the shorter,
little bushier
plants. We'll widen them out, but for the most part, we can fit full rooms in here really nice.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks great. Smells great. I saw a ton of efficiencies out there, kind of starting with your main corridor. Your main corridor is, I think, 12 feet wide. A lot of people, when they're in the design process, they think that these are empty corridors. They don't realize how much stuff is stored there. So can you maybe talk a little bit about, I guess maybe let's get into your HVAC a little bit, which is located in your corridor strategically, and some of the kind of other rationale for putting stuff in that hallway.
Yeah, so I mean, it's storage space as well. We had a pallet of cocoa outside of one of the rooms, so there's opportunity there. But we're harvesting plants, we're moving plants up and down the hallway, we're moving pallets and supplies in and out of the facility. There's just a lot of need for product movement in our processes, and I don't want people bumping shoulders, and I want it to be a safe environment as well. So we felt like it was a need for us to have that much space. Plus, the units in the hallway, very important for us to maintain them, maintenance on inside. Very easy for our HVAC crew to come in and work on those and not interrupt the flow of our facility.
And you elected for a 4-pipe system, which from an engineering standpoint would be the most efficient that you can elect for. Was that driven by the engineers predominantly?
Yeah, it was recommended by our mechanical contractors. And what's really nice about our compressors as well is that it's a dual compressor system. So, the units can operate on one. You're not necessarily having to utilize them both, but if there is a failure, there's a backup.
Got some built-in redundancy into it. Nice. And then from a design standpoint, I thought what you did in the mother room, from a proximity standpoint and a process standpoint, was really smart. So your clone room is just a little offshoot of your mother room, so you're not traveling any great distance or actually even going into a central corridor again. That's a very self-contained area. And you are basically propagating in the same space as well. And we were talking earlier about non-beneficial stress. And because there is beneficial stress with these plants where you can push them and get different outcomes or desired trait expression, but there's also lots of touch points or labor touch points where you can actually devalue the product. And so people tend to compound stress, and what I noticed through walking through your facility is you looked at different ways to alleviate multiple stress events and to keep things. Was that by chance? Was that strategic? You know, what?
I think it was like kind of learning what worked best for us. And so it's like a 3-person process, and we clone. So we have somebody cutting clones. We have somebody that we give the inventory to that cuts them, strips them, and then we have somebody that's poking them. So it's a very efficient process, and we have a decent amount of clones to take when we do propagate for a new room. So for us, it was really like, let's find the best way for us to make this, not a multiple day process.
Something that you said too is, there's no investors in this. This is a family, blue-collar, this is a vision, a dream to do something that is your way. And there's obviously learning with that. But the fact that you haven't grown a plant previous to this is pretty impressive. Also, the fact that your facility is so clean. You're 2 years in operations, and you look like you moved in 2 months ago. Can you talk a little bit about your standards for sanitation, or kind of what the expectation is for sanitation?
Yeah, I mean, I want people to be able to eat food off the floor in here. That's kind of our expectation. We were joking earlier, I say we clean 90% of the time and work on plants 10%. There's no excuse for our environment. If we have a dirty environment, there's the ability for mold, for pests, for mildew, whatever. We're taking that out of the equation by our cleanliness. We're cleaning every room on a daily basis before the end of the day, before people leave. And we do a deep clean at the end of the week. So everything about cleanliness is important to us.
Sure. Yeah, it shows. I mean, it's like I said, I've been to about 500 or 600 facilities across the country, and when you're like, I've been here for 2 years, I was thinking, man, they really maintain this facility at a level that it should be.
Yeah, so, well, obviously we have an overhead door down by the truck bay, so shipping and receiving, very important to us. But we've, 42-inch doors going into our rooms, the 48-inch door coming into this storage room. We didn't know what we were going to need to travel through these rooms. I almost wish that we had 48-inch doors into our flower rooms. Yeah. But looking at what we have now, it helps us. We can do whatever we need to do. Everything comes in a pallet. We can move our pallet somewhere. So that definitely was us trying to have some foresight with issues we might have had in the future.
What about cultivar selection? You guys have quite a bit of diversity here, which I think is really critical for success. But yeah, talk to me a little bit about, kind of a rundown for our listeners of maybe how many varieties you're growing and kind of why you grow certain things over other things.
We have 30 to 35 cultivars at all time. We've had 50 at times. Early on, we just had caregivers bringing in their plants because we didn't know. We didn't know what would work best for this industry, what people wanted. I know there's a huge market for the THC chasing, but we talked earlier about chasing that experience. We're looking for higher flavor, higher terpene content, while maintaining those THC levels. And really, we want to grow for the people. It doesn't matter what I like, it doesn't matter what you like, it matters what the people want. Nice. So our goal is, tell us what you want and we'll grow it, And so it's taken us a while to find kind of, our starting lineup of cultivars. We're getting there, but we're constantly changing them out on a, couple monthly basis.
When you brought in all those genetics from caregivers, I just got to ask, sometimes it's like bringing like a Trojan horse into your facility. Did you guys go through some pretty intense IPM quarantine and lessons and screening? Or?
Yeah, to be honest, we were very fortunate. We didn't have any problems with the caregiver product coming in. We also went and looked at all the genetics before we came in. We brought them in. But I'll be fully transparent. We've gone through the gamut. There's a lot of facilities that will sit here and tell you that they're squeaky clean, but we've definitely had problems to go through, and we'll fully admit that. But we've learned from that, and we've grown from that, and our facility is operating the way it should.
Yeah, it was tight in there, and any grower that tells you they haven't dealt with all the problems, they're not a real grower, in my opinion. And if you haven't dealt with those problems, you will at some point. Yeah. And gosh, getting to the resolution in an efficient manner is, that's the difference between success and failure for a business. If you could go back before you started this, and this is really almost like a message for maybe someone who's just like you, who's like, I've never grown a plant before, but I'm called to this industry and I'm gonna give it a go. What would be like one thing that you would have told your past self, or maybe one of these listeners, something that you learned that was just so critical for success?
Yeah, early on, I was very impatient. I was impatient about the process, and I just wanted to get up and running because I thought we were going to miss out. And really, the time that it took for us to get to this point has been like tremendously valuable for me in my growth in this industry and learning this plant, and very valuable for this company. And so, I would say trust the process. And I know that it's hard to say that and to believe that, but really, if I wouldn't have learned and slowed down and gone through the failures, we definitely wouldn't be here.
So what's the future look like for the company? Where do you see the company going, and the state of Michigan as well?
Yeah, right now we still need to figure out and be the best that we are in this space. It's very hyper competitive in Michigan. There's a lot of people doing a lot of things, but we're going to stay in our lane. And I'd rather pick one thing and be the best at one thing than do 10 things and be average. And so for us, we're here, and maybe eventually we'll have some other secondary products. We'd love to do some rosin in the future, but again, we're going to stay in our lane, and we want to be the best operators in Michigan.
Well, where can people find your product, and what should they look out for? And if you have any recommendations or particular varieties that you're just really proud of?
Yeah, so we're pretty much throughout the entire state because of the partners that we've worked with. We've worked with Loom Cannabis. We sell bulk to those guys. We've worked with Gage in the state as well. We also work with some smaller mom and pop locations. We've worked with Noble Goods in Southwest Michigan. We just sent some product today to a group in Battle Creek, Amsterdam Cannabis, Lighten Up in Flint. But we're really, it's kind of like a case-by-case basis. We want to get our brand out there and our name out there. So we're looking to partner with great people, with great groups, and creating great partnerships.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate the hospitality. You've been super generous with your time today. I'd be super proud if you were my son and you pulled all this off, not having a lot of experience going into construction, as well as, and this isn't just construction. This is very specialized construction. It wasn't like you just built a commercial building. The engineering that goes in these facilities is mind-bending, and it takes years just to understand the vernacular that's being spoken. But yeah, you guys have got a world-class facility, and I think you're going to be really successful if you stay in your lane and focus on being the best.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for another episode of Cultivation Elevated, sponsored by Pipp Horticulture. Stay tuned, and we'll talk to you soon.